Hi again then guys, and welcome to another circuit setup for the 1.36 selection of cars from Gran Turismo Sport, this time the Ferrari 250 GT. Very expensive car, 12.5 million credits. That's a lot more than it was in the previous game, like 7.5 before. Now as far as the tuning goes, although it's not one of the Group X high rollers, which is good, it means you can use it of course in more classes, it still costs an extortionate amount of points to actually upgrade it. 3,000 mileage points to do each of the upgrades, and I believe it gets more expensive with each one. So in general principle, I don't do those kind of upgrades because I don't want to waste that many points on a car that 9 times out of 10 I probably won't use all the time. So if you want to upgrade that, say to drop the weight, then by all means. If it's worth it to you, then do it, and it will make it quicker. But this tune is just with stock, so we've dropped the weight but without actually upgrading it, and we've reduced the power to N200. Now it's a circuit setup in general, so you don't have to keep it in N200, you could have it in N300. I'm not sure if you could tune it down to maybe N100, but I doubt it with the upgrades. So you can rebuild it to whatever class you want. I've just done N200 as the baseline, and that's the class that I would recommend, because when you have a car that especially is a classic performance car, you'll often find that it's really good if you drop it by one category. Now as far as the traction control, this is where it gets, much more so down to personal preference. Basically, if you are a more beginner level driver, I would say maybe have it on 1. But it's a 12.5 million credit car, so chances are you're probably not a beginner driver unless you've won the vehicle. So use it if you need it, but I would not necessarily recommend it because you will be faster if you learn to use no traction control. As far as the tyres, we've got it on Sport Softs. I've explained before why I do that, but the rundown reason is if you build it on racing tyres, it will not be as good on sports tyres, whereas if you build it to be good on sports tyres, it will be even better on racing tyres. It's actually very simple logic. As far as the suspension, you want to drop the ride height as far as it will go to really lower that centre of gravity. As far as the frequency on the springs, that's pretty high, 2.25 for the front and the back. Anti-roll is very high on this one. It is a classic, of course, so you want to reduce that body roll. The front I've got as high as possible, the rear on 9. Then for the compression on the dampers, we've got 65, 92 for the rebound. And as you can see, we've got a lot of camber. Now, you don't necessarily need that much camber. So if you find that it's a little bit too heavy through corners, reduce the front. For instance, you could try reducing the front to say 2 and then put the back to 1.5 or something like that. Just rework it if you feel that you need to. For me, I like the way it handles with this setup, but of course personal preference and all that. So we've got 3 degrees on the front, 2 degrees on the back, no toe, no downforce. As far as the diff, I would strongly recommend the lowest settings for all 3, especially in conjunction with that much camber. You would be amazed by how much this brings the handling under control. It almost completely eliminates the tail-happy nature of the car, which is good, because obviously that's not conducive to a good lap time. And finally for the gearbox, again, this is for N200, so if you tune up to N300, you will want to extend the gears a bit more, but you want the fully customized transmission. I've got an auto setting of 155 miles per hour, which is roughly 250 kilometers per hour. Then as far as the individual gears, we've got 2050, 1500, 1175, 975 and 825. That actually works perfectly for N200. You can get a pretty nice flow through the gears and a decent top speed for its power, and then a final drive of 4.6. So as I said, feel free to experiment with the tune, see if you want to refine it or maybe tweak it for your personal tastes, see if you can make it even quicker, of course, that's kind of always the point. But what you want to see is how does this actually compare to my other setups? Well, as it turns out, it compares really well, because this car is a vehicle which I didn't necessarily expect to be that great in terms of lap time, because it's not a full-on race car like the Group X prototypes are, like the P4 and the XJ13. It's got more of that touring kind of milli almost vibe to it, so not bad, but maybe just very dated. However, it's really good. When you tune it right, it actually brings it under much more control. The handling is very pleasant to work with. Of course, it's a stunning car to look at and to listen to, so it really completes the all-round experience for classic and vintage racing fans. It's still very expensive, but it's nice to know at least that you can get some racing use out of it, and the fact that it's not in Group X is very cool. It's nice to actually have a high roller usable as a road car for a change. So in terms of lap, you're looking around a 158. Now, I have no doubt you can take it quicker than that, and of course some of you will, but to give you some idea of how that compares with my driving to my other tunes, that's not quite as quick as my tune for the Porsche 356, but that is quicker than my N200 NSX, and it is also quicker than, I don't recall which other one it was, but it's also quicker than another one of my N200 Classics, if I recall correctly. But as I said, I can't remember which one it was, but it gives you some idea anyway of how it falls. It is one of my quickest N200 tunes though, especially when you factor in that it is a classic. So deceptively good car, very slippery stock, but when you tune it, it makes it a completely different animal. So I hope you have a ton of fun with this tune. I really think you'll enjoy the handling if you use this setup, and of course if you want to check out all of my other tunes, then click here on screen to do that. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.